The Truth and Reconciliation Commission handed over names of apartheid-era perpetrators that should still face criminal prosecution, especially in cases of torture, assassination or gross human rights violations. But many of these cases have never seen a courtroom. We now have a Judicial Commission of Inquiry looking at whether there were efforts to stop or interfere with those prosecutions, including possible political pressure on the NPA and SAPS going back to 2003. This inquiry, chaired by senior judges and established by the President earlier this year, has complained that key institutions, including SAPS, the National Prosecuting Authority, the Presidency and the Justice Department have not delivered the documents and explanations it asked for, forcing the Commission to issue its first legal directive to compel cooperation. Joining us is Lionel Adendorf, spokesperson for the TRC cases inquiry. Lionel, appreciate your time. Thanks for speaking to us.
Nice being with you, Hugo.
So it's almost contrary to the fact if the President appoints this commission is expected to cooperate and make things happen, and very little in the way of progress.
And that is what is so startling to the TRC cases inquiry, that the ministers obviously knew since May that the President established the TRC cases inquiry, and we would have thought that by that time already they would have started preparations to cooperate with the TRC cases inquiry. And that is why I said we were so surprised that when the first deadline of the 10th of September passed, they were not ready. They still needed to sort out legal issues, and then we extended it until the last Friday, the 24th, and we're hoping that they would use the time, obviously, to work with us. When I left the office on Friday and when I've confirmed with my colleagues this morning, there were still some who asked that they rather deliver on Monday, but we are seeing an uptake now. More and more are much more passionately cooperating with us and supplying us with the statements, the affidavits that we have asked them for.
So let's talk about this legal directive to compel cooperation, right? It almost suggests that if you're having to force people to come and speak to you, that they don't want to do it in the first instance. Yeah. Is it as simple as that? Or are there other factors we need to consider?
Indeed. First, the Commission invited the public and obviously to make some file affidavits or make statements to us so that we can then go forward with our work. Then we saw, and then we also sent the letters to former ministers of Justice, former ministers of the police, former and current police generals and heads of the NDPP. And now, after the responses were not really what we expected, we have now issued the directive where we are asking them, guys, please, we really need you to cooperate with us. But then the third one is obviously subpoenaing them. And that is where our commissioners, Justice Gampepe, Judge our judges and then also all our commissioners have asked that should really be the last resort. So we have that agreement as a secretariat that we would comply with the instruction of Justice Gampepe, Advocate Gabriel, and then Judge Homo to make not even to go to subpoenas, because that is not where we want to be. We really want people to voluntarily cooperate with us and supply us with the information that we need.
Is there a fear that if you do go the subpoena route, the quality of information
that's exactly the fear
may not be what you're looking for, right?
That
what we need.
That's what we are worried about. And what you need to understand is Justice Gampepe, who's chairing our commission, has been she's a veteran of our judiciary, having served on the Constitutional Court. Justice Homo, for instance, was the Judge President of the Northern Cape, and and Advocate Gabriel is a very seasoned advocate of the bar. And the collective knowledge dictate to us that we should not go that route because of exactly the fear that you are expressing. And we really want to thrive on the advice that they are giving us. But we need people to cooperate with us. We need ministers and police generals to work with us. We're answering one basic question: what have you done during your tenure when TRC cases came to your desk? Have you attended any meeting during your tenure? Have you you been part of any conversation? What is it that you know? What progress have happened during your tenure? Did any of the cases that that were reported to you moved any way? Were they stalled? And once they were stalled, what did you know? And as I said, while we had a problem initially, we are clearing them up through the directive, and it is getting the kind of response that we were hoping.
So there are organisations like SAPS, NPA, the Presidency and Justice Department, whom you are expecting to cooperate. Have they been cooperating?
From the understanding that I had from officials this morning, yes, we have seen that they are now more energetically cooperating, and so that would enable us to...
I mean, you expect government. So government is an institution. It's not individuals like you and I. So one would expect that at the point of first request, there is cooperation. Why has it taken so long and taken you to go this route of issuing a legal directive to get their cooperation?
Look, we need to be sympathetic to some of them. On the Friday or during our first pre-hearing engagement, we were only told then that those departments have appointed legal representatives. They have indicated during the pre-hearing engagement of the time that the 1 month that we are giving might not be sufficient, and we always kept the door open for extensions, and we have now granted them those extensions. And as I said, the extensions and the directive are indeed bearing fruits for us, and that is what we want to focus on rather.
Now, for those that hear TRC cases inquiry and say, you know what, we went through this in the 90s. Did we already redo this, right?
Yeah.
Explain to us what it is, what your mandate is.
Look, when the TRC case, the Amnesty Committee of the TRC handed over the final report, there were mention of around 4,000 cases that still need to be investigated by the police, and where investigations were almost done and that then had to be prosecuted by the NPA. Many of those cases were not investigated and prosecuted. And that is why 25 years later, after even the Kalata court case that you would know about, and the judgment that said that really affirmed what we do, the president then decided to appoint this commission of inquiry headed by Justice Sisi Khampepe, for us then to understand why is it that cases that were referred to the SAPS for investigations have not been investigated since 2003. Why is it that cases that have been referred to the NPA have not been prosecuted since 2003? And now we're basically asking those questions to these departments, to these institutions, and we're also asking the public that if you know, for instance, about your particular case that have not been investigated, why is it? What information do you have that will help us in understanding the veracity, the complexity, and also the accuracy of what really happened? That would then enable us to compile our report.
How much of this do you think really is about capacity as opposed to an unwillingness? We talk about a number of 4,000 cases, right? We speak of hundreds of thousands of cases where DNA, for instance, aside from what's happening in the TRC cases inquiry, have not been dealt with. So how much of this could be really about capacity as opposed to an unwillingness, firstly? And secondly, how do you expect to go around it? Because we have a police force. So when we talk about SAPS and we talk maybe about the NPA, where there are current cases that are going back 5-10 years where there is no progress. We've just been highlighting the Senzo Mayiwa murder case where there's been little progress, and that's one of hundreds of thousands of cases. Do you expect to make the necessary progress? And how much of capacity is going to be a hindrance to this process?
The President and the South African public expect us to make certain findings and to come up with workable recommendations. And while your question is very interesting about capacity, I'm sure that it would be a chapter in the report. But we, as the TRC Cases Inquiry, we do not come in with our preconceived ideas. Yeah. We do not have the answers. And that is why we really wanted everyone to work with us so that we can get to the answers, so that we can also come up with this comprehensive report that would make people understand and feel that justice has been done. Because we also need to understand something else, is that many of these people have been traumatized when they delivered their evidence at the TRC, at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and now, after so many years, they still have not received the justice that they've yearned for. And that is what our main purpose is, to at least try and get to the bottom of it, to give people the answers and assurances and even guarantees that they need. And we have not even put pen to paper. We have not even listened to the first testimonies, and we would hope to do so by the 10th of November. And given the everything that we have seen, the cooperation that we have now seen, there's an uptick in it. We will have our second pre-hearing engagement tomorrow, and then the commissioners, Justice Gampepe, Judge Homo, and Advocate Gabriel, have asked us, please do not delay this any further. We have set a 10 November deadline to hear our first testimonies, and we are still on that deadline.
Well, we're certainly going to be watching the space and hope you make progress, Lionel. Thanks so much for coming onto the show.
My greatest pleasure. Thank you, Hugo.
Lionel Adendorf, spokesperson for TRC Cases Inquiry.